Cool. Hi, everyone. Hi, so I'm Beck. I'm here from Oasis. I'm on the Oasis Lincoln Youth Program. We do case management. So we're here for Anti-Poverty Week, and this is the employment online webinar. So we have two presenters today. We've got Tash from Project Youth and Brianna from Wayside, and they're going to talk about their programs. But to start with, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're on. I'm on Gadigal land, and because we're meeting online, we're probably meeting across a lot of land. So I want to extend my acknowledgement and respects to all Indigenous peoples and all the lands that we work and reside on. And now I will hand over to Tash and go on mute.
Cool. Hello. So yeah, as Beck said, I'm Tash. I'm from Project Youth. I am going to share my screen because otherwise I'll probably repeat myself. Here we go. So just to confirm, can you guys see that? Yeah, cool. Awesome. All right, let me know if you have any troubles during it and if you can't hear me at all. All right, so alternative pathways into employment and further education. This is what we really try to focus on here at Project Youth. So Australia is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, yet 1 of 6 Australian children grow up in poverty. This impacts their lives now and in the future. As we would all be aware, the wonderful organisations are trying to call on the federal government to increase job seeker payments, other support payments, and invest in social housing. You might be aware of that link already, but that's a petition to support that cause. So who is Project Youth? We are a youth organisation in the Sutherland Shire and St George area. So we have 3 centres, Miranda, Menai and Hurstville. I work in the Hurstville Centre. So we support young people in 3 different areas. Housing, we provide different types of housing to young people from crisis refuges, semi-supported and transitional. We can house up to 76 young people at any given time in the Sutherland Shire and St George area. Early intervention. So we support young people and their families. It could be in schools, one-on-one support, our drop-in centres and other events that we put on. And then education, employment and training. So providing training opportunities, employment pathways and job readiness support. And that's what I sort of cover. So who am I? So I support young people in education, employment and training. I'm really passionate about this because I myself haven't had a normal career path. So I didn't get a grade ATAR. I haven't been to university. And my first few jobs were the classic Donut King, McDonald's, and I worked at Luna Park, which you can see in the photo. So before becoming a youth worker, I was teaching drama on the weekends and working as a tour guide on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So all my jobs have kind of been random, unrelated, and so varied, but every single one of them has gotten me my current job. So I have a passion for working with young people and supporting them, and nothing makes me happier than seeing young people get given an opportunity to succeed. So why is education employment important to us? So access to education, employment and further training is a protective factor against poverty. So providing supported education and employment pathways to young people who are doing it tough is an essential component of Project Youth's aim to provide opportunities for young people to determine their own future. One of the key ingredients for the success of our program is the personalised support and removing barriers. Without it, we would just be setting young people up to fail in employment. We try to make a difference instead of the usual cookie cutter government programs, and it gives us a real chance to break the cycle of poverty. So what kind of training options do we provide? So we run a Certificate 3 in hospitality, and we run this course several times a year. It's completely fee-free, and it runs in Hurstville for 3 days per week for 11 weeks. So young people that take part in this course get a fully accredited Certificate 3, RSA and RCG. They also get the opportunity to undertake work placement. So a lot of young people that even don't really want employment in hospitality will do this course as a bit of a stopgap. So perhaps if they've left Year 10, but they're still under 17 and need to be enrolled in some formal education, having a Certificate 3 under your belt just looks good for an employer regardless of what field you go into. So yeah, some people who've taken part in this course have gone on to work at the Shangri-La Hotel, Zinc Bar in Cronulla, 500 Degrees Bar and Grill, and other pubs and restaurants throughout Sydney. So we also run white card and first aid and CPR courses throughout the year. So we partner with an RTO, and these courses are also fee-free and available to no longer enrolled in school. So basically with the funding as it comes under Smart and Skilled, they aren't able to do the courses if they're enrolled in school. But if they're formally signed out, no issues at all. So yeah, white card is a common one for young people wanting to get into construction or traffic control, things like that. First aid, often for childcare, community services, and yeah, some hospitality roles require it as well. So we've just started running an introduction to community services through St. George Sutherland Community College. We did find that a lot of the young people that we work with were facing disadvantage in their lives and decided that they wanted to work in a similar field to support others doing it tough. So we partnered with, the Community College in Janelli to offer this introduction to community services. It covers 4 vital units. So you can see here, assess coexisting needs, use communication to build relationships, work with diverse people, and promote Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultural safety. So these units are covered in the Cert 4 and diploma of both the community services and the youth work courses. So participants can go on and do the full qualification. We sort of handpicked those 4 units because we believed that regardless of what field they're going to get into, using communication, being able to work with diverse people, it's important regardless of what area of work you go into. So this course runs for 2 days per week for 8 weeks, completely fee-free, and they will be supported to do further courses. Our job readiness program. So we've run this program for several years now. And it's a regular program that we run probably about 4 times per year. So it's 8 weeks in duration for 2 hours each Friday. It is usually face-to-face in Hurstville, but at the moment we're doing it over Zoom and it's actually running really well. So over those 8 weeks, we support young people to identify their employment goals, create resumes, cover letters, prepare for interviews, apply for jobs, apprenticeships, and enroll in further training. So this course is available to all young people, regardless of their situation. And a lot of high schools actually allow partial absences for students to attend this program. So for some young people that maybe high school's not looking like it's a long-term goal for them, they might start attending this program to help them prepare for when they decide to leave high school. So we have a worker that actually runs this program. I do support it. But Claudine, she has a history in human resources. So she's got a really great insight into what employers are looking for and some of those common mistakes. So Project Educate. So for a long time, we were seeing young people facing employment barriers due to disengaging treatment. So courses and apprenticeships without having their ROSA. So Project Youth decided to start a distance education high school called Project Educate, and this supports disengaged young people to complete year 9 and 10. And this is located in our centre in Hurstville. So at Project Youth, we recognise there are young people in our community who are not suited to the normal education setting. Students are supported by a teacher and youth workers in an individualised supportive environment. So you can see we've got Nell, she's our Project Educate youth worker, and we've got Karita, who is our teacher. Cafe Y. So this is our social enterprise cafe that's located in Menai, right near the library, and it supports the training of young people in hospitality. So for young people facing disadvantage, the cafe offers a fresh start and the tools to secure a job. 100% of the cafe's profits go back into supporting young people. So participants in the Cert 3 in hospitality can do their placement here. We've supported young people in traineeships, several different sort of options for them with Cafe Y. One-on-one support. So group training, it isn't for everyone. So that's why I also work with some young people one-on-one. It could be many different types of support. It could be supporting a young person to find supportive education pathways and link them in with any tutoring support or technical needs they might require in order to complete that learning. provide one-on-one job seeking support, so help them find employment, and assist them to apply for apprenticeships and identify any barriers we can overcome to achieve the goals. So I'll just go through with you a couple of success stories from the young people that have worked with us. So earlier this year, I was working with an 18-year-old boy with a physical disability. He did our Cert 3 in hospitality course and was getting really concerned about deciding what he wanted to do after finishing Year 12. He knew he wanted to do a trade, but he needed to consider which trade would best suit his needs. So he eventually decided on a painting and decorating apprenticeship. I made contact with an employer I found on Facebook, and this boy has now commenced a 3-year painting and decorating apprenticeship focusing on luxury shop fittings and residential work. He's a very hard worker, and he also spends his evenings and weekends working casually as a bartender at a local pub. So I was working with a 23-year-old man who came along to our job readiness program, and very quickly he had a real passion for meat and butchery, but was struggling to find an employer that would give him a chance. Every week he'd show me different, meats that he was smoking and cooking up on his barbecue on the weekends. So he struggled a bit with mental health concerns, but after completing our job readiness program, he was offered a permanent full-time employment in a meatpacking warehouse. So he now mentors other young staff that are just starting out with the same company. An 18-year-old boy I was working with, he'd been disengaged from education for several years. So he undertook our Certificate 3 in hospitality course 3 separate times. Each time he'd managed to tick off a couple more units, but we just kept persevering, and eventually he gained the full qualification. During this time, he experienced homelessness and was supported to move into Project Youth Transitional Housing. Just as of recently, he now works 6 days a week as a head bartender in a local bar and restaurant. The employer's being really patient with him and trying to teach him all the skills he can, because he hopes to work as a traveling bartender within the next few years. So a young boy who had been engaged with Project Youth for 6 years had struggled with substance abuse and homelessness, and he quickly realised that the fast-paced environment of living in Sydney really wasn't for him. So we supported this boy to seek employment with Backtrack in Armidale, and they provide rural education and employment support. So he now works full-time. He lives independently in Armidale and has just been supported to gain his Ps, which has been a goal the entire 6 years we've worked with him. So that was fantastic. Also recently, a young mum of 2 was supported during her second pregnancy through casual employment at Cafe Y. She has now been supported to enrol in a Certificate 4 in Community Services, which she's completing online over 9 months while she's raising her 2 children. We've organised a volunteer tutor to meet with this young person weekly to provide extra education support. So this is Tash. She's one of our young people, not me, Tash. We have a lot of Tashes in Project Youth, it seems. She's got a really beautiful story, and I'll let her do the talking, but if you've got 2.5 minutes, it's really beautiful.
Hi, I'm Tash. I'm 20 years old and I work at Cafe Y in Menai as the front of house worker. I started working at Cafe Y after working at Shangri-La through the Labour Y program. I only have to say my favourite part of this job would be meeting new people every day and knowing that what we're doing is making a difference in young people's lives. This job has definitely changed my life for the better too. I've never worked in an environment that has been so encouraging or supportive, and I really feel like I've been able to thrive and to flourish in such an environment. My advice for working would be to definitely enjoy what you're doing. I know it's something said quite a lot and you hear it all the time, but it is so important because Cafe Y was my first full-time job, and you're spending 40 plus hours a week somewhere in an environment, in a role. And if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you're wasting a lot of your life being unhappy, and it's definitely not worth it. There are so many jobs out there. There's so many courses out there to upskill. I definitely encourage you to find a job that you love and to keep at it. That being said, I do know that the job search journey can be really grueling and frustrating, and it makes you want to give up, and I think we've all been there and it's not fun. But my advice would be, do not give up. Something I always say to myself when I'm feeling down is, you've been through so much and you put in so much work to get to where you are now. You cannot give up now. And in the end, it's always worth it. My story with Project Youth is crazy. It begins when I was 16, over 4 years ago. I was living in their supported accommodation. From there, I was supported in independent living, and I was exited from the system, living independently. They taught me so many skills, so many things to live independently and with money. From there, I was offered 2 job opportunities, first at Shangri-La, and from there at Cafe Y. It's been crazy, everything that I've been through with Project Youth, but they have changed my life for the better, and I honestly do not know where I would be without them. At the moment, I've started my diploma in community services, and I'd love to work in a youth service just like Project Youth to encourage and to support all young people to never give up and to keep going, because there's so many opportunities out there and you have a whole world ahead of you. So keep your head up and just keep trying.
So what's different about the way that we do it? Our service is individualized, so we'll make adjustments and put supports in place until you can achieve your goal. If a young person turns up late, we aren't going to get angry. We'll commend them on turning up at all and see how it can avoid happening again in the future. We're understanding, so if young people are dealing with a personal crisis or need to step out of class to settle themselves, we're more than happy to give them that space and time. And that's exactly why we have youth workers in those training courses, to kind of de-escalate any situations before it might turn into a crisis. And we also want you to find a career you'll love. We don't want you jumping into a job you can't stand. So we'll help you identify your values and interests and see how they can relate to a certain career. So you can see in front of you some quotes from our young people that have worked with us. So I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for Project Youth. So thank you. I love it. It's my favorite job I've ever had. I love my job and everyone is so nice. If you put in the hard work and keep pushing, you'll get far. I love it. And the best part of my day is turning up to work and seeing everyone. The whole environment is so good and just makes me want to go back each day. Thank you for the opportunity to work. I couldn't have done it without the support Project Youth has given me. So these are just a few of our employment partners that have taken on some of our young people. So P&H Fine Foods, they're a meatpacking warehouse that have employed a few of our young people. Pretty in Paint took on our young apprentice. Shangri-La Hotel, Thinking Works, Brain Resources, KK Technical, and Backtrack, which is the one in Armadale. So the employment partners are so vital in this because they're just regular business owners that are willing to take a chance and actually be patient with young people that might just require a bit more support in those early days of employment. It's been amazing how we've made these connections. Some have been friends of staff members, some have been local businesses. So yeah, we honestly wouldn't have the wonderful outcomes we have if it wasn't for the incredible employers that see that gap and see that barrier for disadvantaged young people and actually want to help. So in front of you, you can see all our details, Project Youth's website. We are on Instagram and Facebook. These are my details. And yeah, for some young people, they don't have credit. I can be contacted on Facebook. My name is Tash PY. Any questions? I will stop sharing my screen. Let's see, stop sharing. I am back.
Cool.
Did that
Thank you for that. Oh, yeah. I just want to say thanks for that presentation. I really enjoy that. I particularly enjoy hearing. Why do they? Sorry, if you can hear my dogs going off.
That's all right. I'm surprised my dogs are doing the same.
As I unmute. I really enjoyed that presentation. Hearing the young people talk about like their experiences and the impact it's had was really it's nice to see, and it's just I really enjoyed that. And I'm interested in as you know, I'm pretty interested in the Introduction to Community Services course. A few of my guys are pretty keen on that. Also the hospitality one. Yeah. You said you're running that a few times a year. When are we running our next one?
So we're actually starting it on Monday, and there's still opportunity for young people to enroll.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, we're so relaxed about it that if someone let me know on Friday afternoon they wanted to turn up on Monday, we'd make it happen. We'd fill out the forms on Monday. They'd be good to go.
Okay.
Yeah. So even if they like miss the first day and then want to do it from Tuesday, we make it happen. So that's okay. It will be in Club Central in Hurstville.
Yep.
And just with the current government guidelines around venues, they do have to be double vaccinated.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only real requirement we have. Okay, good to know. Now's the time to start enrolling people into these courses.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I had.
Yeah, I have a question as well. Well, firstly, that was really inspiring. So thank you for sharing, and especially the young person sharing her journey. She's going to be an incredible social worker, community service worker. So yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, so obviously with Project Youth, you provide the early intervention, like wraparound supports.
Yeah.
I have received a couple of referrals from Rent Choice Youth once the young adult turns 25.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, is there much of a need once a young person turns 25 to refer them to community-based case management? And if there is, what are the providers that you usually refer to?
Right. So from 25 onwards?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not certain of what suggestions we put to the older young people, especially when it comes to housing. I do feel like, yeah, there is definitely a bit of a gap. I think, fortunately for us, a lot of the young people have had like success through Rent Choice Youth and are kind of in private rental by the time they turn 25, which has been good. But yeah, I guess I would be interested in actually knowing more services that we can refer them on to as well.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, and I guess with Rent Choice Youth, that's part of, like, because the young people that I've worked with that have been wrapped around with Project Youth don't necessarily need that ongoing support, but it's part of that package.
Yeah.
Because they're already really independent, because Project Youth is, they've got involved in the programs and confident, and their self-esteem's really good. So yeah, you do such a fantastic job. Unbelievable. Thank you.
No problem at all. You might be on mute, Beth. Oh no, you're good.
Now I'm not? Good. Got it right. Okay, do we have any more questions for Tash at Project Youth? No. Okay, Brianna, you're up. So now we have Brianna here from Wayside, and take it away.
I'm frozen. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep, I can hear you and see you. Yep, all good.
Fantastic. I'm Bondi based, which means that we're in the, it's a notoriously bad for reception.
Okay, all right.
You still, sorry, you guys all frozen.
Okay. Sorry,
I'm okay? Okay. That was really interesting from Tash. I think there's a lot of overlap. So I guess I'll run through what we're running within Wayside, but a lot of similarities. I think probably the biggest difference would be we're just a bit smaller, quite a lot smaller probably, and we're doing sort of one core thing. I think less of the sort of different options that Tash was going through. I've got a presentation, so I might just see if I can share that. So yeah, so my name's Brianna, I'm from the Wayside Chapel, and the employment, what I'm going to talk about today is the Wingspan project, which is our youth employment program. I'll just put this, can you guys all see that okay? Yep. So basically the Wingspan project is Wayside's primary sort of youth program. It's a youth employment program, and it's actually relatively new. Some of you would be familiar with it, some might not. We did a pilot a few years ago, but in its current form, it's actually only been running for just a bit less than a year. So in all of those ways, it's quite in its infancy, which I think is means that it's sort of a work in progress, but it also means it's quite an exciting time, and we're in the process of building it while we're working with it. As I said, we've been going for nearly a year, but as we've been going, we've been working really closely with the young people as actually to be adapting it as we go. With each month that goes by, we check in with our young people and go, what's working, what's not, how can we make this better? So it's very new, but it's also, yeah, as I said, quite an exciting moment for us. So we kicked off as I said, in the current form of Wingspan at the end of last year. And what it is it's obviously it's a comprehensive employment pathway. It's built around social enterprises. It's just the one pathway that we've got. So it's for youth at risk, and it's just for one group of young people at a time. So we do an intake 3 times a year. And that one group, which is quite a small group, actually goes through the whole program together. And the objective of the program is to support marginalised young people or youth at risk into sustainable employment. As I said, in many ways, it's quite a focused and straightforward, in some ways, idea of what we're trying to achieve with Wingspan. As I said, we take in a cohort of young people every 4 months, and we walk with them for quite an extended journey. We can spend up to a year and a half with a young person, and the goal is that we can get them into sustainable mainstream employment through working within our social enterprises. So what we do with young people is, firstly, we look at their barriers to employment, and we work with them individually and as a group on the barriers to employment. Then when they move into our social enterprises, they learn how to work in a work setting. So I think similar to a lot of other employment programs in that sense. And then we have a big variety of different mainstream employers who have put their hand up to basically walk the next step with the young person on their journey into sustainable mainstream employment. Some of the fundamentals of it are, I guess, that there's 3 steps in the journey, and the steps are all incremental. And all the way along, we have a really honest and open communication with our young people and very clear and real expectations. I always think that if you think about this, I guess the challenge that we face, which is that our objective is to sustainable mainstream employment. It's quite a lofty goal in many ways for a lot of our young people who may have no experience in the workforce, who may come from intergenerational unemployment, and who may face many barriers to employment. It's quite a big leap. And so what we do is we try to break down every step along the way for the young people, so that as on an individual basis, we are continuing to build the expectations and the skills of the young people on that journey. A couple of the key facts of the program. So it is both, we have a strong structure around it, but at the same time, on an individual level, we're very flexible with each young person. It's comprehensive in that we provide the workplaces and also the outside of work support. It can go for between 9 to 18 months. And I think that's a really key factor there. I think you want to have structure around the program and to have really clear expectations for the young people to fit within. But then at the same time, on an individual basis, we flex to the needs of each young person. With the length of time that a young person can be in the program, I think one of the ways that you can, if you have a program that is too structured, I think it's an easy way to have somebody fall through the cracks. I think to be able to respond to a young person and say, this young person actually has some significant behavioural challenges that they're working through in the workplace, and therefore that we can have them work with us for a year. On the other hand, you've got another young person who has a couple of barriers they've actually managed. We've got them at just the right time, and they've really risen to all of the challenges of the program, and we can progress them through in 2 months through our employment with our social enterprises. We work with young people from 17 to 25 years, people who've experienced disadvantage. The ready to look at work thing is I guess, in terms of criteria for getting into the program, we're very, very flexible. Even the age range, we would be open to considering somebody outside of that. The key part, obviously, being an employment pathway, what we're looking for is somebody who has a couple, I was thinking, having a few legs on the table stable, in the sense that if somebody is still going through crisis in this moment, it's probably not the best time to be considering work. the same way as for any person, if you're going through a period of crisis, I think to have the kind of expectations which are put on by a workplace is not the best time to be looking at trying to rise to the expectations of work. So we basically, a lot of our young people who are referred into the program, they're generally in some kind of stable housing and generally supported by caseworkers and case managers in other organisations as well. As I said, we do 3 intakes in the year and we take 12 young people into the program. In that sense, it is quite a bespoke program for those 12. We get to know our young people very, very well. They get to know each other very well. One of the first things that they start to build is actually a community amongst them. There's often a strong sense that they are all on this journey of they've been through a lot and right now they're looking to make some changes in their lives. And so there's often quite a lot of friendship and social connections made within the group. They also walk the whole way together. They become colleagues of each other within the businesses. So as an example, we could have one young person who came into the program. He faced, he was probably the example of somebody who just, I think confidence and social anxiety were 2 of his biggest challenges. And also getting housing and having actually an income. He came into our program, he rose to all of the challenges of each step of the program, worked within the kitchen. He identified he didn't want to work front of house because it was he didn't want to do the customer facing side of things. He worked in the kitchen of our cafe in Bondi, and he grew as a person enormously within that. I think he'd become quite disconnected, and he found that within the kitchen space we've got a fantastic head chef who's quite a motherly sort of figure, and then we've got other kitchen staff who are from a lot of different backgrounds. And I think for him it was really eye-opening to working sort of alongside Brazilians and people from Chile and things, and getting a sense of what life might be like growing up in these different countries. He started having conversations about the world and about politics that I think were quite different to what he'd had before, and I think all of these things started to build his confidence in himself. I remember him saying to me at one point that he was 6'1", and I remember thinking, I never thought he was so tall. And I think I felt like his posture changed in his time with us, and really big transformation. Even though he was only working there for about 3 months, he felt he was ready at that point. And then we had a partner in the mainstream who was offering a role, and he transitioned straight out into that and actually was able to go straight into full-time work. I think we then continue to provide support for him outside as well. Another young person might be facing quite significant sort of behavioural challenges, maybe somebody who's experienced homelessness and who has fended for themselves in many ways for an extended period, and has some challenges around following instructions within a workplace and respecting the authority of a workplace, and rising to the expectations of being part of a team, that you've got these responsibilities. And so with that young person, we've got a much longer journey with them of working on those things. That's like we can work every day looking at having that having those conversations, really positive reinforcement and feedback to the young people every day that they're working. And that young person could be with us for a year, as I said. I guess the idea, I just think it's interesting to look at why work matters, I suppose, in this context where of this sort of forum that we're in at the moment. I guess it's a consciousness of the value of work. But I always think it's quite interesting if you think about employment. As you can see from our objective, it's quite a clear and finite sort of goal that we're going towards, sustainable mainstream employment. At the same time, I think it's important to recognise what is encapsulated within work and the value of what work represents for somebody. I've had the privilege of my background. I've worked with various different social enterprises and employment pathways. I've worked with Backtrack up in Armidale for quite a while, and with other ones in Sydney. And having the privilege of seeing somebody move from being excluded from the workforce and not having their place within it to finding their place in the workforce, I think is one of the most transformational experiences to see. I think that because in many ways, sometimes we can whinge and complain about work at the same time, and we can sort of maybe diminish it to thinking that it represents something like money in your pocket and somewhere to go each day, when in actual fact I think that it satisfies a lot of the most fundamental needs that we have as a person. It gives us a place to be and a place of belonging and a refuge, which I think particularly for our young people who can be a bit disconnected is a profoundly can be transformational thing as well. to have a place where I walk in, I know where everything is here. I know where we keep the dishwashing liquid. I know where we keep this. I know where we keep that. I know this place as if it was my home. Is a powerful thing. I think having a sense of identity is another aspect of it as well. I think within if you've never had a title before in a work capacity, I think to have a title, I'm a barista actually. I'm also Brianna, but I'm also, I'm a member of this workplace. I work at the Heart Cafe. I think that there's a lot of value that comes along with that, and I think it broadens your sense of who you are as a person. It also brings a sense of community and a practical, real community. You have a position within your team, and you have a set of relationships with your manager, with your colleagues, with the people that you're onboarding potentially and training. And I think that has enormous value as well. You learn a whole different way of communicating with people as well and interacting with people. You can call it code of conduct if you get it in the work sense, but it's a new way of interacting with the world and with people. And it might be that in my personal world that people shout at each other, and that when I get angry, I just walk away and I swear and I walk away. That could be the kind of behaviors that I might have experienced in other parts of my life. In a workplace, though, I'm starting to learn that actually in this workplace, we don't swear and we don't raise our voices. And we do have differences of opinions and we sometimes have conflicts, but we always sit down and we always talk about it. And when we can't, we always bring a manager in. And those kind of things where you start to see how not only is that a whole new way of interacting with other people and communicating, but you start to see how this kind of influences your personal life as well and starts to build skills that are really transferable to your relationships within your family and within your friendship groups and your or romantic relationships. I think, and then there's a sense of purpose and becoming really good at something. I think all of those things are powerful in someone's life if you have a sense of not being too successful in other areas. In terms of the 3 steps of our program, the basics are there's 3 steps in the program, as I said. The first step is the pre-employment, where we get the young people together for class. They come together for training 3 days of the week. We have a qualified teacher training our young people. They come into one group in a classroom setting, they learn some of the basic things from a young person perspective. I guess some of the things that they learn are around, we do all of the same sort of certificates that Tash was mentioning as well. So we do sort of barista and white cards and first aid certificates and things. So basically any entry level certificate that a young person is interested in, we'll provide that to them in that first step. They also come in and they do group projects. And I think if you look at it more from I guess our perspective, some of the things that we're starting to build is social connections and the capacity to speak and be within a group, which is often a big step for a lot of our young people who have social anxiety, and a good step to do before going into the workplace. There's learning how to communicate productively and sort of collaborative communication skills and conflict resolution. There's a lot of confidence building. They do projects together, and as a group, they're in these sort of group projects. There's all kinds of team building and quite sort of a lot of the professional skills that you learn for use within the workplace. In a really practical sense as well, from our perspective, what we're also looking to get is routine in life, which I think is one of the biggest challenges, and then punctuality. So basically the most fundamental aspects of work, which what we can draw out of the workplace and actually do beforehand, is basically being there. And we set really clear, super basic, but really clear expectations on the young people. You've got to be there. You've got to be there basically on time, and you've got to engage with what we're doing that day. And if you can't do any of those things, that's okay as well, but you have to communicate about it. That's the basic idea of that first step as well. And so that's something which just takes practice and reinforcement. So we, in that first step, we also, that's one of the biggest things we're sort of looking to do with the young people. They then move into the workplaces. We say to all of them that basically you've all got a job within our social enterprises. It's just a matter of you sort of determining how fast that happens. As soon as you start rising to those expectations that I just listed, we'll be immediately looking to move you into the businesses. We've got 3 different social enterprises. We've got the Heart Cafe, which is a cafe in Bondi. We've got 2 op shops, one in Bondi, one in Potts Point. And we've got also 2 low-cost cafes, which are like our they're cafes in which we provide low-cost meals for our visitor group within Wayside. So they're quite a different workplace. And we have one of those in Potts Point and one of those in King's Cross, and Bondi as well. The young people have the freedom to choose whichever one they want to work in. And so we give them that positive first step in the workplace. Then we support them to move into the mainstream. Just to give you some idea, I guess, in the first section of the program, we really work very closely with each young person and tracking all of those things, those key sort of factors. So we've got this is very small and you probably can't see anything, but just to give you some sense of the detail that we go to with each young person, and we have really open conversations with each young person about how they're progressing through that first step. We then work with them in the workplace. We've got a capability framework which simply just sort of breaks down what is professionalism or what is being a good worker. We happen to have our social enterprises happen to be retail and hospitality. That's in many ways, I think, irrelevant. What you're learning is how to be a good staff member. And as you probably all identify, if you're ever looking for a staff member in any capacity within your workplace, if you can find somebody who can do all of these things, they're really generic, but they're also quite aspirational as well for all of us, I think. So staying people who can handle feedback and things, and people who are able to communicate professionally, people who know different ways of communicating, all of those things. This is the kind of stuff that we're looking for. We work on with our young people, so each person has this capability framework, and from the beginning of their time working in the business to the end, we basically look to get them to master as many of these as they can as capabilities. This enables the young person to be very much on board with their journey as well. And as you can probably relate to, I'm sure everyone in the room, you often have a young person who thinks that they're pretty rubbish at absolutely everything, and actually needs to start building that confidence and realizing that they actually come with a lot of innate skills in all of these areas. And yes, there's some challenges here, but these are these strategies we're working on with them. And you've got another young person who thinks that they're probably the best person that's ever walked into the workplace, and they should be promoted pretty soon, and they've got a lot of opinions about how things could be done better in the workplace. And again, that same young person, this gives a really objective, simple way of working with both those young people that actually, let's bring this back to where are your strengths, and what are other areas that we actually are having challenges, so that the young person, that I find that most of our young people suffer from the same condition we all have of being very young, which we all had in our first jobs. It generally means you're sort of young and don't have much of an idea of what you're good at, what you're not, and what work means. I think I can certainly relate to that, and I think I got fired from most of my first jobs. I was more of had a lot of opinions of how things could have been done, and no real knowledge behind any of them. And I think this starts to build, and I lost those jobs, and I still don't know why quite exactly. I mean, that's like one idea maybe, but certainly no one takes much of the time to sit down with you as an entry-level employee and give you the kind of feedback that starts to build that awareness. I find that it's only after sort of 10 years or something that you start to get to the point where you're like, okay, I've actually started to develop an understanding of who I am as a staff member. What we want to do is actually cram that all into this first job, that actually you've got a manager who really cares about how much you know about what you are as a worker, how valuable you see yourself as being, and how, so that after your 3 months, 6 months, 9 months working in that business, you walk out with a really strong, far stronger than I'd say any other 19-year-old walking out of another business, a really strong understanding of what my value is as a staff member, what I'm good at, what I'm not that good at and really don't enjoy, but the strategies I use in that area. I think personally any young person from any background would really benefit from that. In terms of a quick snapshot of what the length of the program, I guess, is. So I said the first step, you're in our Wayside Centre here. So we're Bondi based. That's something, I guess, it's one of our challenges. I think we are only the one location at the moment. Our businesses are different places, but the first step of the program is in Bondi. It's and one of the biggest challenges we've had with young people is just getting there. So we've got young people as sort of the inner west and then down south as well, but it is, that's something I guess to be aware of. Then they move into our social enterprises, and then they move into the mainstream. Through that, we've got a youth worker and an education manager who work really closely with the young person in the first step, and then an employment support manager who works all the way along. As you can see, it's a pretty small team. We know our young people incredibly well. They're a particularly dedicated team, and I think you can speak to any of the young people I think involved in the program, and I think they would reinforce that it's an incredibly dedicated and committed and hardworking team that wraps around all of the young people. We're also, as I said, because of being new and small, I think some of the big advantages of that is that we're really agile as well. And so when we've had young people suggest things, we're able to just immediately sort of change the program in certain ways as well. So that's a really, I think, a good thing as well.
My experience with Wingspan has been like incomparable to any other thing that I've done, and that includes like school or programs or anything like that. It's changed like so many aspects of my life. Before I started Wingspan, I hadn't left the house for like 8 months, so like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything about employment, even how to get a job, and now I'm like out here working, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's changed my life, and I know that sounds like really cliche and corny, but it has. What's kept me going through Wingspan would be definitely the other people within the group, very like-minded people having the same goals and achieving them together, and not just like achieving the goals, but the steps towards them that nobody will tell you about unless you're in something like this. Wingspan kind of breaks it up and makes it more realistic and achievable. Previously, I was in a pretty tough spot. I didn't know what I was doing with myself or with my time. The challenging part was the routine, but the routine's also like the best part, having something to do, having something worth getting out of bed for, and like leaving not just your house but your area to come out here to be a part of something. Yeah, it was challenging, but it was like the best kind of challenge, you know. I'm most proud of like actually like getting a job because I was not expecting that at all. So like that's what I mean. It's had a huge impact, and not only that, but it's opened my eyes up to all the other opportunities that I missed before. To be working, it feels like I'm a normal, functioning, contributing member of society, not just sitting around waiting for my payday, but actually working towards that at the end of the week, you know. And it's like I'm a normal person. Yeah, that's really cool. This is the main like social group that I'm now a part of. Yeah, that's like the people really have made a difference, and yeah, it's mostly affected my social life, and even just like my general like conversations, because I wasn't able to have normal conversations without bringing up things that I shouldn't. My main conversations of like topic of conversation were not suitable for the workplace, so like that's a big one for me as well. And confidence as well, like just confidence in getting out of the house, confidence in like talking to other people, or just even saying hi to someone, you know. Like you've got to be able to have some sort of confidence to take an order. I feel lighter about myself. I'm not sure if that really makes sense, but like, you know, I feel like, you know, just good, you know. Excited to work and to be a part of that, and now that I've done the first part, it's like I've achieved something, you know, like not just me but other people in the group as well, and like you can feed off that energy and feed that back to them, and then like everybody's just like, oh my god, we did it, you know. And it's like a sense of achievement which like most of us probably haven't felt in a very long time, if not at all. So that's really cool. I don't know exactly what I see in the future at this point, but I know now that a future is definitely there, and it can be whatever I want it to be, and that's huge. Like that's really something, because like I said, if you told me this time last year that I had a job, I would have loved. So the future is bright.
Cool. I'm glad we got that one working there. Thanks for showing us that. The videos always like really get ya when they talk about the programs, both your presentations, videos, and the young people talking. Yeah, that was also really awesome. Thank you for that. We've got a little bit of time for questions if anyone has some.
I just had one question. For young people to be engaged with the Wing Skip Span project, do they need to be local to like the Bondi area, or can they come from anywhere?
No, you can come from anywhere. The only challenge is to be here, and there isn't really any way around that. There's the class every day, and the young people have to be there at that class. So that's the only thing. If the young person has a way of getting there, you can come from anywhere. And we've had people from quite far out west as well who've been really wanted to be in it.
Yeah, no, it's just good to know, because I feel like, especially in our housing, we've often referred people on to like Caretaker's Cottage and Bondi Junction and stuff, so like it's just good to know what's around when we are referring young people out of our service as well.
Yeah, we've had a lot of referrals from caretakers. The other thing, just as a note, is that I guess we're open for referrals at the moment, and we've actually, for the first time, we've had a lot of young people always interested each intake, and this time, I mean, we've been sort of racking our brains as to what the cause of it is. I think probably lockdown has had a big effect, but a lot of the young people who were lined up to start the program, they're just going through a really difficult time at the moment, and it's seeming like it's not the right time. So we're actually, we've got quite a few positions. We're hoping to be able to have our next group start this year, so next month. But at the moment, with the numbers that we have, we just haven't had enough referrals, unfortunately. So we might be having to look at January. But if put it out there to the group, if you've got any young people, we'd absolutely love to hear from you.
Great.
That's good to know. And it's not a question, but just a little bit of feedback, I suppose I have, without saying too much about my client. One of my guys is doing this program. I just want to say that when you talk a bit about like the social anxieties and the lack of confidence and things like that, the change that I've seen in my young person from starting the program, being a really anxious young person, hadn't been working in work for like over a year, and very, not good in like social settings and things like that, has come completely done a transformation, working in the op shop now, loving it. The support that she's been receiving from staff and you guys on the program has been great. It's been really good, honestly. So it's been really, really good for her. I'm so glad I referred her. So thank you for taking care of one of my guys. So we'll see if I can get some more in.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what you saw in the video was a bit of a snapshot of some of the different workplaces. So one of them's the cafe, obviously you would have seen the op shops, and then the class-based part as well. So all of those things in the video, but that's a bit of a picture of what it looks like on the inside.
Lovely.
I think we're good. Thanks so much, guys, for coming.
Thanks for joining, friends. Thank you for your time. It's been wonderful. All right, thank you very much. I'll stop recording and we're all free to go.
Have a good day.
Bye, guys.